Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the World Human Sciences and Management Conference 2021. This is Rudranarayan Das, Executive Director, Center for Adivasi Research and Development, Odisha. We are proud to announce that this conference is conducted along with Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha, Koraput, and Ravenshaw University, Cuttack. I welcome our speaker for today, Professor Rajendra Padhi, and participants across the globe through Facebook and YouTube Live, and who are here to listen to Professor Padhi. The broader theme of this conference is agnotological context, disciplinary practices of social sciences and policy frames. On behalf of Center for Adivasi Research and Development, I extend my profound gratitude to our patrons, Professor Dr. Sanjay Kumar Nayak, respected Vice Chancellor, Ravenshaw University, Professor Mahadev Joyaswal, Director, Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Professor Dr. Sharat Kumar Palita, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Odisha. The convener of this largest virtual conference are eminent Indian historian, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda, and eminent policy activist, writer and philanthropist, Mr. Charudat Panigrahiji. The main outcome of this conference is to come up with the national and international framework for the education system in future. The crux of this conference will be the use of digital technologies such as artificial intelligence, augmented realities, and virtual realities that is being increasingly adopted after the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. We hope this conference would help students, faculties, researchers, and all to expand their mental horizon and help the education system to adopt the best. Ladies and gentlemen, the Center for Adivasi Research and Development is a leading research-oriented institution promoting ethnographic, empirical, and evidence-based research for engaging and addressing the challenges that 21st century globe is facing today. The prime agenda of this institution is to come up with potential policy solutions for social change while believing in the idea of debate, dialogue, and discussion, and expertise, experiencing, and education. The institution focuses on marginalized communities and work for their livelihood to protect the nature, culture, language, and identity in particular. The age of modernity has witnessed that change is the only constant phenomenon for the societal purpose to enhance knowledge. Our information work for them is methodical and avoid paradoxical frameworks which is neglected so many centuries from theory to become practice. The card sincerely believes in the concept of social marketing, which is seriously looking for non-profit marketing and build new social entrepreneurship for check and balance mechanism to glorify generations to come. Center for Adivasi Research and Development come to serve with the holistic approach of critical thinking in education to fill the gaps to plan accordingly for the voiceless communities. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's evening, we have with us one of the very important poet and personality of 21st century is none other than one of the key advisor of CARD and one of my very good friend, Professor Dr. Rajendra Padhi. Professor Padhi was born in 1963 in the state of Odisha, India. He has been contributing for the enrichment of Indian writing in English. He is mentioned in writing in English too in India for his poetic contributions. He is the recipient of International Poetry Award, Universal Inspirational Poet in Accra, Africa, where he was felicitated in the presence of the office of the Honorable President of Ghana Republic. His poems, articles have been featured in more than 80 books from the different countries of the world. He has been written 5 books. Names are The Living Touch in 2009, Songs of Void in 2008, O Earth in 2011, Sunyatar Priyatama, a Odia poem collection in 2008. His first English novel was The Dark Hours in 2013, and Reflections in 2018, a poetry collection of Professor Padhi. As a translator, Professor Padhi translated the biography of Saint Arakita Das and Mohimandal Gita, He's also the editor of the story Wogan, International Poetry Anthologies, Antithesis, Holy Hymns, Aroma of Wilting Petals. And he has also edited more than 10 books. His articles on literature, education, and media have been published in the internet, and journals are widely appreciated. His poems are also published in quarterly literary magazines of United States and Philippines and many more countries. He's the recipient of 2 national awards by Poetry Forum, International Poesies Award, and Award for Literary Excellence in Gujarat National Poets Conference. So, Professor Padhi, we are very glad to have you in our conference. Professor Padhi will deliver his talk on the topic is importance of human values in today's world. Now, without taking much time, I would like to invite Professor Padhi to initiate his talk. Over to you, Professor Padhi. Please. Sir, please unmute. Sir, please unmute.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really grateful for the invitation for this webinar. Esteemed Vice Chancellor of IIM Sambalpur, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Ravenshaw and Central Universities, scholars, organizers, and participants of this webinar. I am extremely thankful to Professor Rajendra Padhi for giving me this opportunity to share my views on the importance of human values in the present era. Dear friends, I have been working as a teacher in the college since last more than 34 years, and it has given me a unique experience of loving, empathy, focusing on how we will grow together, which is ultimately the goal of the world. Mutual respect, love, loyalty, honesty, and so many things, which makes us a human being. Dear friends, each day we wake up in the same morning, from the same room, and live the same day as yesterday. We are buried in the work. In the past, each day was a new adventure. Profound concentration is missing in the present world, and our culture and tradition remains far away from us. As if we are timeless. Everyday educational institutions are showing human beings as throngs of products, as goods and commodities. We are conditioning our life in a watertight compartment. We do not have free thinking. We have no time to see the sunset. We have no time to listen to the chanting of the birds in the trees. We have no time to know when the spring season came, as if we are completely buried in our work. And we have been very self-centered. We do not have free thinking also. We are having a lot of rules and regulations. People, those who are working in the different offices, people, those who are working in the corporate sectors, they don't have time to think the good qualities, the qualities that will make us a good human being. And as such, in the present world, we find that many people are not having a good mental health. Physical health is not important. Mental health is also very important. Psychological sanity is missing in the modern world to make us a good human being. And here actually we feel that whether we have time to think about the people, those who are suffering in the world, whether we have time to think about a person who has met an accident and lying on the street, whether we have time to serve the poor and the destitute in the world? This is the primary question. And you know, dear friends, that after the First World War and the Second World War, there is a great degeneration of the moral values in our life. In this context, I must say that we have not used human knowledge in the right direction. You know, Einstein, who is one of the most intelligent human being in this world and who has used the maximum power of the human mind, 25% of the human, the potentiality of our brain. But then the nuclear holocaust that took place in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, it devastated not only the people of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, but also it devastated the whole of the world. And we are terribly shocked because we are not using knowledge in the right direction. And if you remember that we have fought so many wars, we have in this world created terrorism, we have been misusing human knowledge, whereas the basic goal of human knowledge is to make us a good human being. This we are missing. And when we are talking of this technological world, and when we are a part of this techno-savvy age, we say that the world has turned into a global village. But you know, every country, they have their border disputes. The borders have not been mitigated. And we feel that there is jealousy, envy, and all kinds of vices that is growing faster in the world. And we have fought millions of battles in the world. We have killed millions of people in the world. We have seen many despots. We have seen many people, those who have tortured mankind in all sorts of ways. Religious hatredness, communalism, terrorism, and at present we are doing the greatest disaster for mankind. That is, we are inviting a death for our earth, this celestial baby, which is the gift of God. We are not able to have a knowledge of our own self. We are forgetting that it is our prime duty to protect our world. We differ from the animals. We say that we are created in the image of God. You know, in this context, I must remember few lines from William Shakespeare, who wrote that, "What a piece of work is man, how noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and in mounting, how expressive and admirable, how like an angel in apprehension, how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of all animals." Shakespeare extolled human being as most rational, as most reasonable, and he has infinite faculties in his mind to understand not only this world, not only human life, but also to the whole of the cosmic drama of Almighty God. But today, when we see that the degeneration in the moral and ethical values, and our education has also failed to create a good human being, there is corruption, there is destruction everywhere, and we are not yet changed a little also, even after this pandemic. We are not actually conscious, to maintain a good mental health, in order to bring sanity to the human society. I am reminded of a few lines from William Butler Yeats, who wrote the poem The Second Coming, where he says that, "Turning and turning in the widening jar, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold, mere energy is loosed upon the world." Here the falcon is the human being. Here the falcon is the world, and the falconer is the human beings. The human beings wants to control the world, but the world cannot be controlled by the human being. Nature cannot be controlled by the human being. We have been born in this world to spread a love, which Jesus Christ was doing. tomorrow we are going to celebrate the Christmas. And thereby, the only message of Jesus Christ was to love and to spread the love. And mankind stands on the principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, where actually we have to love each and every human being. We have to find out our time in our busy schedule of modern life for self-introspection. We have to know that we are not born as animals to only produce, only to rear off, only to run after materialistic desires, but we are a spiritual essence. We are divine robots. And you know that this world is all right. Air is there for us. Water is there for us. And the world is all right. But then we have a very self-destructive nature that we have forgotten. We have discarded the tradition, the culture, the custom, and the ethical values that we have learned from our ancestors. We are very sorry that today we call ourselves very knowledgeous and we say that we have unprecedented power and there is a competition among the nations who is the most rich and most powerful. There is competition among the human beings who is rich and who is more powerful. But we are forgetting that our life will rather end one day. And when we are living this life, we must be very serious that each second, each minute is very important in our life. And we must actually disseminate our knowledge in building up the character of the people, in inculcating the moral values among the people, and how to make them a good human being. And we know that there are thousands and thousands of maxims and proverbs that service to mankind is service to God, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and so many proverbs are there. We have read, we are reading, but today our educational system is not oriented in such a manner that we can create a very good human being who will only think about the betterment of human society. In this context, I must say that we have started our journey from the cave, from the jungle. We were jungle men and women, and you know that our society was, we had no religion. It was a pagan society. There was paganism. Then we discovered God. Then we discovered religion. Then our seers and saints, they taught us Buddha, starting from our ancient seers to Vivekananda, and from Vivekananda and many seers of the world. They have been actually teaching us how to become a very good human being in our life. And this journey, this journey is rather it is a gift of God. Our life is a gift of God. You know that the ancient seers and saints, they have planted the tree of knowledge for us. We can learn a lot from them. We have read Taoism, we have read Confucius, we have read Buddha, we are reading Vivekananda, and many actually people of this world, those who have told that this is an eternal world. This world is not going to be destroyed. This world is created by God. So we must give up the self-destructive nature and we must try to understand ourselves as a human being. So this is not me versus the world. This is rather we are a part of the universe. As you know, friends, in the whole of the cosmos, Professor Padhi, please say something about my points. I'll be telling at the end of my talk. Just I will speak a little more. I'll be just talking about my poems. I have also written a book called O Earth. It's a long poem where actually it is a poem of 100 pages. And in this poem, I have told all these things. That how actually our civilization started, how a small boy called Sargao was kept in a bucket and he was left in the Tigris river, and how the boy reached to the bank where actually he first found the human civilization. So as somebody has requested me, I am thankful. In that book, O Earth, I have given this description that our journey has begun from the Tigris and Euphrates River. Then we have how we have built the Rome city over the on the mountain over the seven hills, and how I have given a description of how the girls for the first time they stood on the balcony watching their lovers, and the beauty of the beginning of the human civilization. They are in the whole of the poem. You will find our journey from the inception of the origin of the mankind until the modern age. That book I have written over, as I was requested to speak something about my poem. However, you know that we have to revive. We have to revive the knowledge of the past. You know, a group of modern philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche, Jean-Paul Sartre, Soren Kierkegaard, Albert Camus, then Schopenhauer, all these people, all these modern philosophers, they came with, yeah, so all these philosophers. I was telling you about Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher who told that God is that and the Superman is nigh. And he told that there is the rejection of the traditional knowledge. The modern philosophers rejected the traditional knowledge, the ethical values that was a part of our existence, and they wanted a naturalistic rethinking of the nature of human existence. Jean-Paul Sartre, he told that man is born as a blank slate, our mind is a blank slate, and whatever actually we experience in this world, we write it in the blank slate, and that becomes our life. Also, they denied for the existence of God. So they were very hardcore rationalists. And you know that in modern age, when we are living in a technological age, we are actually giving more emphasis on rationality. And you know, we are having an education where there are no feelings and emotion. No education without feelings. That is not there. So life is gradually becoming a burden for us. And you know, the family life is not, there is no joy in our family life. There is no time for anybody to think about the family members. I have written so many poems on the modern life, how actually people, they live in very big houses, in skyscrapers, but they have no time. Their windows are always shut in every season. I have written a poem. Windows are always shut. They hardly see the faces of their children. When they return to their home, they just put their hand on the hand of their wife, and next day morning, again the same thing is repeated. So this is our life, which we live very miserably. And we have developed a lot of pessimisms, and we have developed a lot of paradoxes in our life. And our life is now defined as very absurd. It is meaningless, that we are having a life which is completely meaningless. And the writers of the modern age have tried to, there is a question, how do we measure life? Yeah. To understand life is really is very difficult because we have some 80 or 100 years of life, and we have no time. In this context, I remember Richard II, one of the character of Shakespeare's plays. Oh, I wasted time. Now time does waste me. When we waste our time for some other things that is going to be not ours in the long run, that is the pity. For that reason, we cannot measure life. we have to have self-introspection. Not only self-introspection, people forget that they need several transformations. Each day must bring a transformation for you so that you can have the eyes of a God to look into the activities of the human being. You cannot be a poet or you cannot be a creative writer until and unless you have the eyes of a God. And you have to observe human nature and the human activities, human mind, and you have to find out time in your busy schedule to have meditations in life and a prolonged meditation, a prolonged spiritual life, that you must have a conversation with God. You must feel that God is a person. God is somebody who can understand your feelings, your emotion, and you can be a part of this cosmic consciousness. I would like to say universal consciousness. So it is, there are so many people in this world who are leading a spiritual, religious life, but they don't have a linkage with God. And when somebody may ask whether there is God or not, God always keeps us in contradictions. God always takes us to suspension of disbelief. We are always torn between belief and disbelief. And thereby, if you have developed your habit of your mind to have a conversation with God, not only for a minute or two, but you have to sit in silence for hours together, then only you can have a, you can just feel that. You can look at yourself, what you are doing. Yeah, what is the philosophy of Jean-Paul Sartre uh, in terms of freedom? You see, Jean-Paul Sartre, he believes that we must have a free state of mind. We must give importance to reason. We must give importance to Jean-Paul Sartre. Actually, he believes that life is just meaningless, and life is just it carries no meaning. It is a world that is full of absurdity. It is a world that is full of confusion. But he said that we need awful freedom. We have to come out from all kinds of human created things. We have to develop a mind of our own. And that's why he uses the word awful freedom. Awful freedom is that when you are not bound to, you are not actually slave to any kind of ethical, moral, traditional values of life, and you live your life according to the ideas and thoughts developed in your mind. So he coins the word awful freedom. Awful freedom is that you have to come out from the thraldom, from all kinds of man-created knowledge, man-created tradition, custom, and everything. And you must develop a vision of your own life. Thereby you can experience awful freedom. Any more question?
No, sir. Please carry on with your topics.
Yeah. So as I was telling you that mankind has undergone tremendous changes. I was telling you that it has faced 2 world wars. We are now facing the pandemic. In this context of the present pandemic situation, there is an assessment of the human values. Now, recently also, the government of Odisha has introduced human values as a course in the undergraduate and for undergraduate students. It's a very nice thing. And also some programs of the government are going on. Recently, the Higher Education Department has given a letter how to actually create good characters among these students, how to actually make this world a drug-free world, how we can protect our children from all kinds of addiction and all kinds of activities that is going to ruin them, and ultimately that will ruin our country. So they have introduced this subject very recently, and that is to create the value of love, to create gratitude, to create kindness, to create the sense of giving. So that will actually bring us a good growth as a human being. That will also help us. mm, how do you look at the impact of postmodernism in uh, I want to read the question again. Shubham.
Sir, can I read?
Yeah, kindly read the question.
So the question is, Professor Padhi, how do you look at the impact of postmodernism on English literature so far as the understanding of ethics and human values are concerned?
Yes. You know that particularly when we speak of the post-modernism, and also in this context, we must focus on different kinds of literature that have been developed in different countries. For example, we say about the post-colonial literature, and where actually we find what happened to the people of the world when the Britishers they left the colonies. Yeah. So the impact of the postmodern literature is that the World War poets in Britain, those who fought the First World War, they actually talked about the futility of the wars. In this context, I remember one of the poems written by Wilfred Owen, Rupert Brooke, Wilfred Owen's Dispute Session, and T.S. Eliot also. All these people, W.B. Yeats also, all these people, they presented the world as actually in the process of degeneration. And they actually warned the people. They warned the people that the innocence, the ceremony of innocence is downing, and the color of the sea, the waves in the sea, that is red now, that is now more blue, because the World War, the impact of the World War, that created a trauma in the mind of the writers. This is one. Another thing is that because of the migration of the people to the different parts of the world, as you know, dear friends, that 17.5 million people of India are living outside our country. So their experiences of accommodating a different culture, a different civilization, and their alienation, their feelings of exile by staying away from their homeland, all these things have been expressed. But on the whole, I find that whenever you read any kind of literature, whether you read Afro-American literature, whether you read the British literature of the modern days, you find that actually they have expressed, whether you read also the literature of other countries, there you find that they have been writing about the kind of anxiety, the kind of feelings of nothingness, absurdity, the kind of confusion, exile, alienation, and sufferings of the modern days. Thereby, when we read the gamut of the whole of the world literature today, we find that we have been highly pessimistic, and they have actually they are not writing how actually we can revive the world. So I feel also a bit frustrated that we do not find cherry optimism in their writing. So the aesthetic value is missing in modern literature. For example, when we were reading the literature of the past at that time, we are highly gratified by our sense of aesthetic sense. But gradually we feel that the whole of the literature that we find today, no doubt, they are expressing our sufferings, they are expressing our degeneration, and there is a voice for feministic literature. And now we are actually we are writing literature in relation to our protection of the environment. That is in relation to this ecological, to bring the ecological balance. But nowhere actually I find that they have a very positive sense in their mind how to actually recreate the knowledge of the past, how to recreate the knowledge of our past days, how we can be a better human being. Nowhere it is actually written, excepting that I find that T.S. Eliot, Thomas Ten Eliot, who actually wrote this Wasteland, where he says, April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire in the dry tubers. So he says that April is the cruelest month. April is the time of the spring season. He says that actually this season is, April is no more actually the springtime. Rather, it is a season that is a cruel month. So this is a kind of negativism. But at the end of the poem, he speaks about the three things: Datta, Dharma, and Damatya. Datta, what have we given to the world? We are only taking from this world. We are digging the earth. We are taking coals. We are destroying the world. We, in order to bring the amenities and comforts in our modern life, we are actually destroying the earth. Datta, what have you given to the world? Daya Dharma, do you have pity? Do you have dharma? Dharayati dharma, do you have a sense of discipline in your life? And Damatya, self-control. And thereby he says, I sat upon the shore, fishing with the arid plain behind me. Or I am sitting on the shore of a what? Arid plain, where actually there is no sea. And he says, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. These fragments I have sewed against my ruins. Why then I will fit you? Hiranyamo is mad again. Datta da dharma damatya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This is the thirst for peace. The thirst for love is lost in this world. Man is no more bothered about love. Man is no more bothered about the harmony of the body, mind, and the soul. Man is no more bothered about. That is why during the time of pandemic, all the temples, all the religious places were closed. That God doesn't want man to run to the temples and just present before him a list of his desires, for the enjoyment of human life. Life is not actually meant for our own self-enjoyment. Life is meant for serving the people in the world. Yeah, this is how I feel. If you read the whole of the world literature today, you do not find a sense of optimism. You find, if you read James Joyce Ulysses, if you read The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, where actually the Marlowe is a sailor. He starts his journey from the most civilized river Thames, and he goes to the Congo River in the Africa, in the heart of the darkness. How the African, they were being tortured, and they were made a slave by the British people, and that is shown in those books. And there you find modern literature has no doubt has brought in front of us the miseries that mankind is undergoing, the degeneration of the moral and the ethical values. But nowhere I find that how we can be a better human being, that message is missing. That literature today is talking about emancipation of women, but nowhere actually man is truly conscious how to give protection to a woman, how to give respect to each other in the society. That is missing. There is a kind of what I say, there is no communication between the human beings. And today in the one of my friend was asking me a question about the technology in the age of the technology. Uh, you know, dear friend, that we are living in a world, and very recently there is a book called The Most Human Human. There is a book, just I was going through that book, The Most Human Human. Uh, this writer of this book is a lecturer on technology and the issues on technology. So thereby he wants to develop a computer model in order to capture our norms and values. A machine that is to be used mathematically in a computational system to learn about everything about our modern life. So this is how we are becoming highly mechanical, and we ourselves are becoming a computer, and we are depending on artificial intelligence, not on our own intelligence. That we have infinite capacity in our mind, that we can do anything in this world. And you know that Vivekananda has told that if you have the concentration of the mind, if you just do a practice of concentration of your mind, you can get everything in this world. But then you have to be a good human being. You have to bring several transformation. So we find there are so many bad things in a good man, and there are so many good things in a bad man. But we all have to undergo several transformation. Each day should be a day of transformation, to acknowledge ourselves, to find ourselves as a true human being. Whether we are really human or not, that we have to have a self introspection. So this is how I feel that human values are quite different from the professional ethics. Sometimes we make a confusion about certain things like what is human nature, what are the human tendencies, and what are the human values. Sometimes we make a confusion about professional ethics and human values. Professional ethics of this cooperation, loyalty, and working together, and to teamwork, all these things are actually professional ethics, but this cannot be called as human values. Human values are very much related with spreading love in the world, bringing justice for each and everybody in the world, and to serve the poor and the destitute. And we must make an introspection as how we are spending our days in doing something good for the world. If you just make an assessment of within the 24 hours, what have you done for the world? It is zero. You have only done for yourself. I have also done for myself. Whether I have spent the 24 hours for the betterment of the world or to help the people, those who are suffering a lot, that is not there. So there is no value of such education when actually we are not doing anything good for the mankind. That is why we need to revive our past knowledge. No doubt it is very difficult today to revive the past knowledge, because we are people of science and technology, and we don't want to. We believe in excellence, innovation. We believe in inquiry. We have curiosity for our materialistic growth, and we are talking of equity. We are talking of ecological sustainability and environmental protection. We are talking of integrity. We are talking of respect for each other. But then do not have a human culture. We are talking all these things because we are educated, we are enlightened, because we have learned all these things from the books. But there is no practice of these things in our life. So we are running after materialism, amenities and facilities. We are not trying for our physical, mental, spiritual, and moral well-being. This is a problem with us, and that is why in this pandemic, we have to make an assessment of the human values, and also we are struggling with this crisis till now, and this is the time for self-transcendence, changing yourself. God has proved that human knowledge is very limited. And you know that this world is just a, it is a very small, tiny thing in the whole of the cosmos. This world is it's just like a knot in the whole of the cosmos, and thereby our existence, you, me, or anybody in this world, is insignificant. So this is a vast cosmic system, and this world is rotating by itself. The world has a system of its own, and we are living in this world. It is our everybody's responsibility that this is the time when we have to have a self introspection, and we have to undergo self transcendence. Self transcendence means responsibility, not only the responsibility for your family, but also the responsibility for the other people of the world. For example, if you do not use a mask, you are going to endanger the life of other people. So if everybody will use a mask, then they will protect each other. This is conservation. This is security. That if you are secure, you have to also make me secure. This sort of attitude is required. So this attitude as a human being is very essential, that we must actually love each other and take care of each other. Also, we should see the security of each other. So now actually there is a global unity, we may say, that during the time of the pandemic, the very concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that now we are globally fighting, collectively fighting, fighting actually this pandemic. And it has taught us for self-introspection, for self-protection, and also the protection of the mankind. So we must learn these things from the events and from the things going in the world. You know that every minute, every second, if you have the eyes of an onlooker, if you look at the world and the activities of the people, just watch them, what they are doing. Are they really conscious of what they are doing? This is the pity of the world. So those who are highly educated, but they are not actually so serious about themselves, nor about the society. That is why there is a belief that human values are very same as the professional ethics, but there is a difference between professional ethics and human values. In the modern society, the human values are somehow replaced by the money and greed. Yeah. So this is how we feel that in the past, people believe that we are created by God. So the very word God, it creates in our mind fear as well as hope. But today we say that there is no God. Many modern philosophers, they said that there is no God. This world is created in an evolutionary process, and we have been created from the monkeys, and that is why man has lost his own image by his own knowledge. That this world is so beautiful, human life is so beautiful, human relationship is rather the very nectar of our existence, the amruta of our existence. We are amrutasya santan. We are the children of immortality. And our Shastra said, our body will die, not our soul. Our soul will be merged with God. That sort of faith is going away. And once actually, if you feel that life is, human history is nothing but an materialistic interpretation. History can be interpreted materialistically. As Karl Marx in his Das Kapital said that human civilization can be better understood with a materialistic interpretation. This is not. Human life can be better understood with self-introspection and universal love. And we have to recreate the knowledge of the past. We are reading, but we are not actually making a good culture. We are reading Mahabharata, Ramayana. We have read the Niti Satakam. We are reading Arthashastra. So many books we are reading. And we have the knowledge of all those books, but we are not practically using those things in our life. For that reason, we have lost to be called as a good human being. And sometimes it has to happen that running after materialistic goals and desires, we have lost the very attitude of taking care of our own health. What you say, immunity. Immunity means whether you are doing some exercises, yoga, and no doubt there are so many yoga gurus. But at the individual level, whether you are in today's world, do you think once more, Subham?
Sir, the question is, in today's world, do you think we need to decolonize our materialistic mind in understanding the Adivasi epistemology that they have so far as their culture of nature worship and love towards perennial sources of life without any vested interest, whom we always dubbed as barbaric, uncivilized, and uneducated?
Yeah. I was just staying for some years on the border of Fulbani, and I must share one of my great experience there. I wrote my novel The Dark Hours. Of course, it has not been circulated by the publisher from Delhi, so I am going to republish it. That book happens to be a book on the Adivasis living in Fulbani. So I happened to stay at a place called Belghara. Belghara is a place in Fulbani. There, I was a brother in an Adivasi family. Only one member of their village was working as a livestock inspector. I happened to meet him on a tea stall, near a tea stall, and I had a conversation with him. Then I went with him to during the Chaitra festival, where actually they worship the tribal people. They worship. So I went to their village, and there are 4-5 hills. You have to go to 2,000 feet high from the sea level, and there actually I lived there. I stayed there for a few days. Also, I went several times there. So there I find that the Adivasis or tribal people of the state who have been miserably forgotten by the civilized people. I have written in that novel that will be republished just up in 2022. So in that book, I have also just studied the Kui language, and when I studied the Kui language, I just made the sentence pattern of the Kui language. And there actually I found these people to be very innocent, and they have been rather not helped by the mankind. They are very right of using forest as their home has been taken away by the different rules and regulations made, and they have suffered a lot, and they have been like this Maoist, they entered into there. Then there was the conversion of the tribals, and how actually there is a religious conflict also there among them because of this conversion. So you are very much right. You are very much right that we have failed to protect these tribals, those who have been protecting our environment, those who have been protecting our forest. We have a very wrong conception in our mind that they destroy the forest. It's not the thing. They worship every tree as they feel that there are gods and goddesses in those trees. They always protect the forest, but we have forgotten that. So we must have this. We must not actually forget that the tribal people should be this should be taken care of by the government. And you are very much right because I have of staying at Fulbani and on the border of Fulbani for so many days, and for so many years I went there in my leisure time. You are very much right. Nature is their life, and we are separating them from their life, and that is why because of this industrialization, that we have found so many industries in the jungle, We have devastated their life. All these things also I have written in my novel. Yeah, Rudra. Any more question?
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you, Rudra Naran Das, can I ask a question to Professor Padhi?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, it's a very delightful to listening you more than 45 minutes and you start interact with our audience. I would like to know much about what is literature per se in today's world or in modern world or in contemporary days or whatever you say any kind of jargon for these modern literatures. Who is writing these literatures of this today's world? And secondly, if the academicians not writing this modern world literature, then perhaps they're doing a crime.
Yeah, you are very much right.
Please, I think so. Some noise from your side, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, Mamata, a door close the door, close. Yeah. There will be no noise now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And sir, it's my 4 or 5 observations, and simultaneously you take it as a note or question, whatever you call it. And then perhaps you rightly mentioned about the World War and 1 and 2. And you told that World War and 1 and 2 both are agitated to this discrimination about writing, the skill of writing. What you are talking about, the skill of writing or the art of writing? And you talked about you talked about very nicely about the Eurocentric notions and the perspective they wrote, evils they wrote, the human values, how degradation and decreased day by day. Perhaps you quite little bit understand about the Eurocentric notion in terms of Americanization, how this academic world operate from this irradiated of this understanding from below. From the nation's perspective or from the international perspective, from the mafia's perspective, what actual people are writing in these contemporary days? The reflection of the idea not bargain with society or societal affairs. If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, sir. In this context, sir. In this context, I want to just speak one thing that what we call today popular literature. I must say one thing that, we are writing very technically. Now, actually, writing is no more a spontaneous work. It is an intellectual work. And we are writing for the sake of popularizing a kind of book. For example, you know that Rupi Kaur, one of the Indian-born Canadian artist and poet, she has written 2 books, The Sun and His Flowers, and another book is The Milk and the Honey. And these books have been sold 8 million copies in the world. And another thing is that, who is the writer of the namesake? Jhumpa Lahiri, yeah. Jhumpa Lahiri, in 2002, she published her story book called The Interpreter Maladies. And the book was sold 25 million copies. So if you ask me how these books were circulated, now actually writing a book is entering into a market hall. Oh, there are so many publishers. What they are doing, they are translating these books into so many languages. One book which became popular among the readers, some readers. Now this book will be translated into 25 languages, and there will be some market. This will be marketed. This book will be, the marketing will be done of this book. So when a book becomes like goods or commodities, there actually you miss the spontaneity and the aesthetic sense in that book. So when you read Madhusala of Harivansh Rai Bachchan, Madira le jaane ko nikla ghar se madira wala, किस पथ पर मैं जाऊं, असमंजस में है भोला भाला, अलग अलग पथ बतलाते सब पर मैं ये पथ बतलाता हूँ, एक चला चल राही तू मिल जाएगा मधुशाला। और एक वर्ष में एक बार ही जलती दीपों की माला, एक वर्ष में एक बार आती होली की ज्वाला, दिन में होली रात दिवाली रोज मनाती मधुशाला। एक वर्ष में एक बार ही, so the cultural context and the words that are very natively used by the people. Many of the Indian literature are very closer to the culture of the country, but many literature of the other countries are talking of the culture beyond their cultures. So thereby what we are missing is that the very, when the literature is away from the simple diction, simple words used by the people, and when the literature is basically not focused for catching millions for the purpose of selling the books, for the marketing of the books by the publishers, this is how actually the very, that people say that poetry is dead in modern life. And one of the critics said, poetry died in Britain after the death of Alfred Lord Tennyson. When Tennyson died, poetry was dead in Britain. Truly, the emotion is missing from poetry. Feelings is missing from poetry. It is a very mechanical work to write a book and how it will be sold, how it will rather catch the mind of the people. This is a technique. Thereby, Sahitya is Sahridaya Hridaya Sambad. Literature is the transfer of emotion from one heart to the other heart. When that is missing, when Hridaya is missing, or heart is missing in literature, then how can we call it literature? It may present some global issues, which can be presented also in other dimension of other sphere of human learning, like in political science, in history, in economics, or in the social sciences. You can present all these problems. But when you are coming to literature, अपार काव्य संसारी कविरेव प्रजापति तथैव रोचते विश्वम तथैव परिवर्तते. Her imagination is the very fountain source of human creativity. Today we are missing imagination. And our literature, when we read a poem, it may be in social media or maybe in a book where we are reading actually B.S. Snipers in a free state, where we find there are 3 stories. All these 3 stories are different, but that becomes one book. When you read James Joyce's Ulysses, you find poetry there, you find drama there, you find all kinds of hodgepodge. No doubt this is one of the milestones in the field of literature. But to my mind, because whenever I sit writing, unless and until you are rather mesmerized by your own existence, thereby you can create a literature. So today we are actually missing a great deal of creative literature where imagination plays a great role, emotion plays a great role, because emotion is missing from modern life. We have no time for emotional things, and we have no time for sharing our feelings with people. People have no time. Just if you call somebody, he will leave the place because he doesn't have time. So because of this, that we have lost to be a human. I am very sorry to use such kind of words, but it is true that how we are intellectuals. When you are actually a victim of ego, how you are an intellectual, which has not made you human. You are jealous, envious, you are destroying the world by the wrong use of your knowledge. How can you call yourself intellectual? Because an educated person, an intellectual person, he always thinks about the betterment of the world. This is how actually we have lost ourselves to be called as a human. I'm extremely sorry for using this kind of language, but I feel that because I also spend most of my time in reading. My most favorite hobby today, I must speak because I have some people to share my views. This is not actually sharing knowledge. This is just sharing our emotion, feelings as a human being. So thereby I have found a delight of understanding silently about myself. I sit for 1 hour every morning in meditation to concentrate my mind, how to bring transformation. In the past, I was not good, but today I must try to become a good human being. And also, I spend most of my time reading books.
Dr. Jena, are you any other questions to Professor Paddy?
Yes.
Please.
Sir, you rightly mentioned about Madhusala, one of the fine poem orated by Harivansh Bachchanji. A man went to Europe and back to India and wrote his mother tongue. That is the passionate about writing literature, right?
Yeah.
I can just number rhyme through our state point of perspective, what you call it, Odisha.
Yeah.
About Gauri Shankar Rai, about Binod Chandra Nayak, about Binod Chandra Kanungo, about Umakanta Das, about this holistic nature of the five poetistic. Those are even starting the entire literature movement here in Odisha, in coastal belt particular. But they also lacking these tribal issues. They don't even write single word about the tribal perspective. How could you generalize this version of literature in a modern perspective of the globalizing sense when we are going to divesting our nature, culture, language, and identity per se in terms of the regional issues and particular you can take it very serious note about the local language or local tradition based literature. Even people are not writing a single piece. Even this modern society, when we are going to deal with pathos, not ethos, pathos, in every minutes or every seconds, when you lost our numbers of, you rightly quote about the emotion. How could you generalize emotionless people can write very sensitive things in the modern world? And last but not least, my final submission is that I would like to know what is the impact of global literature in today's modern society, what you call it, market driven society, quote unquote.
Yeah. That's a very nice question. You see, as in the past, we were reading a book that became actually rather like it was like a teacher. A book was like a teacher. But today, you purchase a book at the railway station, you read the book and kept it in your bookshelf, or you just gave it to the some bookstore where actually old books are sold there. So the very holistic approach of reading a book is missing. And that is why the global, we have millions of books today in the world, but all these millions of books have failed to create a very good human being. You know that the world is undergoing, there are machination, treachery, and hypocrisy, and everything. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So we are something at the daytime before the audience, and behind the audience we have something else. And that is why this very holistic approach and is missing today among the readers. And because of the growth of writers in the world, so many writers in the world, we are also missing what are the most worthy books that should be preserved, like Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all those books, those which guided us, our generations of people. And you know that Ramayana is a piece of literature, but the character of Ramayana has become a god in our country. Ramachandra is worshipped everywhere. Literature can create gods, and literature can create characters that are to be worshipped in every house, in the heart of the characters rule in the human heart. But in the modern literature, there are how many characters who have found a place in the heart of a human being. And thereby, this is, of course, your opinion and my opinion. It resembles that when we are not giving any emphasis on colloquial diction, what the native language, the language that actually people speak, the emotion, the natural human beings, the natural emotion and feelings, if we are not able to just put in our words, the words cannot have the magic of appealing people. And that is why Today we find that we have written so much of literature today. Every day millions of books are published in the world, but no book has been like Odyssey, or no book has been like very entertaining to talk about the history of a nation, to talk about the human values, and to talk about the sense of dignity and majesty in human existence, the heroism, what you say, Friedrich Nietzsche told that we have to be Superman or superhuman. But thereby we are missing what he said. He told us to explore in us the very naturality, to explore in us the very originality, and that we are missing. Of course, you are very much right. In this context, I want to say that many in Latin American countries, there is one literature called Appalachian literature, where actually the literature, the folk literature, or the literature of the countryside have been brought to the global platform of literature by they made their folk literature as their songs, country songs, and they circulated it. So thereby we have to find out the indigenous literature of our country. And I have come to know that in Koraput, people are now writing about their tribal people. They have written so many books in the recent years. They are trying to explore, but those writers do not find a platform in a city life. And they have been given an award, but they have been totally forgotten. Their literature have not been circulated in the society. And this is the one thing that I feel that actually we are neglecting the people, those who are writing from their own heart. They are expressing their own emotion, their own life, how they live in a cottage, how they live in the forest. And such kind of literature is missing in the world. And today we are actually mad after this glittering life of the modern age, and we are running after the writers whose books are marketed in the world, those whose books are propagated in social media, in YouTube, in WhatsApp, in Facebook, and everything. But we are missing those people, those who are not in Facebook, but they are writing about their own emotions and feelings. We are missing it. So we must end here. We must make a research, and we must bring those literature in any form. We have to bring our regional literature, our folk literature, our true literature, I must say, our most indigenous literature to the forefront of the world. And if we do this, at least in our country, that nobody is trying to bring the Adivasi literature, Adivasi culture, and their very naturalness of their life, then we are actually not doing a justice for those people. And also we are not doing justice for our own educated intellectual life. Sir.
Thank you so much, sir. And this is perhaps my last question to you, sir. You rightly mentioned and gave an example of Lord Ramo, the characterizing of Lord Ramo. How many people read about the character of Ramo without knowing the facts about 84 and 85, the serial called Ramayana by Ramanand Sagar? And media propagated the character, and you rightly know the politics behind all these things. I don't want to put myself into politics, but also I would like to know a little bit more as a student of media or communication. Perhaps it's a little bit very difficult to say, and what is your observations through the communication perspective of global understanding? When you have a nice exposure and you moved around the globe, maximum numbers of countries you visited, and you perhaps got numbers of awards for your writings. And you are the right man to give my answer, I think so. That's why I will ask you in the August presence of this Galaxy of audience. I would like to know what is the impact of global literature in terms of Hollywood cinema? Perhaps the literatures or writings biased by this global phenomena of understanding communication, or even the Bollywood per se, the romanticism of literatures. I gave you some examples, exactly The दिल वाले दुल्हनिया ले जाएंगे, रब ने बना दी जोड़ी, हम आपके कौन, मैंने प्यार किया. The romanticism of everywhere, what the everybody taking seriously of the love and response towards the pyar, how deals with the pyar, quote unquote pyar. It's a very famous word of Hindi heartland belt. And even in our Odisha, if we come to taking seriously in these our old movies, per se in Hollywood style, that is called Swapna Sagar, Chilika Tire, and Suna Chadei, and Jahaku Rakhibe Ananta, some kind of major understanding and major localized cinemas. These also beat and challenges through the Bollywood narrations. What the perspective of these cinema makers? Do you believe they go through any kind of literature? If you watch Pooja Phulo and Pooja Chandan, the Odia movies, they based on the character sizing of tribal villages, and they selected and selective their agendas in terms of tribal population and what the tribal people facing in those days. How could you say, or how could you narrate your ideas about the writing style of the literature? What is the methodology of the writing style of literature? Maximum people are writing today in terms of using only methodology that is called very popularizing in India, copy paste, copy somewhere and paste here, copy elsewhere and paste here. If you buy and purchase idea through the narrations of literature, and many people are doing PhD in particular literature, it may be from English, it may be from Odia, it may be from Hindi. How could you narrate and how could you justice to these bullshit PhD scholars? Sorry, I quote this word because it's my own understanding of problematic literatures. Everybody doing literature review in terms of his writings, in terms of his PhD, that is called history, political science, sociology, or even mathematics, and even science scholars also doing literature review. Sir, what is literature? Literature is only the perhaps test of somebody wants in contemporary textbook or contemporary reading books or any contemporary, any kind of book material or shape of book. What is your observation, sir?
Sir, you see, there is a very deep connection between art and literature. There is a very great connection between cinema and literature also. Now, a lot of PhD are also being done about the relationship between cinema and literature. Basically, literature has been the potent source of inspiration for making a movie. And you know that there are several books behind the success of the successful movies in the world. One of the great examples is Harry Potter. And there are so many examples in our state, outside the state, even in the Bollywood and in the Hollywood, everywhere. And in this context, I want to say that, you know, there are so many writers in America, those who actually write books to make them movies, accepting Harry Potter, which caught the mind of the producers of Hollywood. But there are so many books, so many writers in this world who are very professional in nature. Today, there is something like writing as a profession. Writing is no more, for example, in the past, people wrote literature to delight and to teach them. That was the basic objective of literature, to delight, to entertain, and to teach people. And now, actually, let us remove the word teach. Now, literature is the very basis of entertainment. As Eliot wrote in one line, in this room, women come and go talking of Michelangelo. In this room, women come and go talking of Michelangelo. So people are presenting themselves as a highly intellectual in their writing or in their conversation or in their discussion, They are talking of a character like a great man like Michelangelo, but they do not know who is Michelangelo. This is the contradiction. So, because we are living in a very highly commercial world, where actually our mind has also become very commercial, so these movies are commercially made, and sometimes the aesthetic import of the movies are not for the sake of imparting some values in our life. And if you see a movie also, you may learn wrong things also, because people, they are using the social media today even for wrong things. And they see YouTube, how to, cybercrime, everything is going on. So the relationship between literature and cinema is very much there in today's world. But basically, your point is very much right, that Ramayana serial was telecast in the television, and there was a lot of propagation. Very few people these days, they read Ramayana. You are very much right that people, they do not read Ramayana. They don't have time to read such a great epic like Ramayana or Mahabharata, but only they are satisfied of knowing about Ramayana or the story of Ramayana by watching a TV serial. But then we are missing the very poetic language of Valmiki. There we are missing the very language which is the very heart of literature. It is language that actually makes a literature. It is through the language that only we are moved, or our aesthetic sense is born in us, or aesthetic sense is gratified in us. It is through literature. But nowadays, because of the social media and because of the technology, because of the digitalization, we are leading a digital life, not a physical life. Our mind has become such that we do not want to read a book, we don't want to purchase a book, and we don't want to read Ramayana, but want to see a TV serial like Ramayana. For that reason, we are actually going away from the root. We are going away from the root, and we are actually only becoming some kind of pepper rose. We are all pepper roses. Myself also, I am a pepper rose. No doubt, I have written some kind of literature, but I feel that there is a sense of what you say. I am not very dissatisfied that I could not write anything very great, but I'll be very dissatisfied if I write something which is not very natural to my mind and to my learning and to my life. So we are actually going away from the very root, and that is why it is happening that people are running after PhD, as you told that they are doing a PhD in so many subjects, but without going to the very lives of the people, problems of the people. There are how many people in our country who have done research on human issues, there are very few people in the world who have done research on their tribal life. Very few. Just you can count their numbers. But then the whole of the thing is that, as far as today's topic is also concerned, that actually we are going from the root. We are going from the, once you go from the root, it is only the branches that you see. We have no root. We are rootless now. If you just introspect, and if you just probe into your own existence, then you find that we are rootless. We are going away from our root. We are far from God and nearer to dust. We are far, far from God and nearer to dust. And that is why we are missing the very aesthetic sense. And that is why whenever we read a book, we do not learn anything. There are no human values there. You read any kind of book, and you are very much right that plagiarism, you know that Rabindranath Tagore received Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913, and it has been long years. Hundreds of years have been passed, and our literature has failed to create a global impact. The only reason is that just I was just giving a deliberation in the Bharatiya Bhasha Parishad, Kolkata, where I said that we have not received Nobel Prize after so many years. We have not received Nobel Prize, but it is a great thing that so many people of our country are very true to their culture and they are going to the crux of their Indianness, and that is why sometimes we fail to have a global impact when we are talking of regional literature, when we are talking of a kind of writing that is very much true to our existence, Indianness, our tradition, our culture, our way of life, then definitely we may not receive Nobel Prize for literature. You know, Rabindranath Tagore also received Nobel Prize for literature because he sent the book to William Butler Yeats. And thereby William Butler Yeats read the book. And he was a man who was behind these things. So there we find that sometimes our books might not reach to Nobel Committee, Nobel Prize, we may not get Nobel Prize, but then there are so many writers are there, and I don't want to give a much example. There are so many writings by the people of our state and by the people of our country who are actually not away from their life, away from their very Indian culture, Indian tradition, and that is why we have failed to catch the global mind because we are not actually producing a kind of literature that the world needs today. And I must cite in this context about a poet who is in America or Britain, Mina Alexander. Mina Alexander has written so much of poetry. I have read so many poems of Mina Alexander. Kali Dances is one of the poems. Kali Dances is one of the poems where actually she presents how beautiful culturally, how culturally so rich and how disciplined an Indian woman is. And for that reason, she is powerful. Discipline is the very essence of our life. And how an Indian woman, she looks so beautiful with a sari, with a bindi, with the bangles, and how she looks like a goddess. Kali dances. I mean, for that reason, she's powerful. And nudity and other things in the European American culture, in other cultures, have definitely brought a kind of shamelessness to human world. How we call ourselves civilized when your social media have rather makes human being naked. So we are not monkeys or tigers. Tigers, they have their own values. Monkeys have their own values. But human beings, as we have what we call lajja, as we call abhimana, as we call parampara, as we call sanskruti, as we have a journey of this human culture for a very long time. We have been reforming, changing, and trying to make our human world better. In this context, the animals, they have no change. They have their own life as they were some thousands of years back. They are also at present the same. But we have been changed from the caves to the skyscraper. And that is why this is high time for all of us. You are very much right to make an introspection and to being a parity among the literate and the illiterate. What you call the Adivasis are illiterate, but they are true human beings. We are literate, but we are hypocrites. We call ourselves very knowledgeous, but there is no use of our knowledge because only it is the educated people, they have been destroying the world. You talk of Lenin, Stalin, Hitler, you talk of so many. I don't want to actually have a discussion of those people, the scientists and the engineers and the teachers we are creating only goods and commodities in our schools and colleges. We are not creating a good human being, and thereby it pains us that we are not actually able to create a good human being in our 34, 35 years of, because we ourselves are not so good a human being. And when you are not a good human being, how can you create a good human being? So this is very contradictory, because ourselves, we are not sincere, honest, we don't crave for knowledge, we don't desire for other kinds of discipline that are required as a teacher. And we have, and we are not trying for any kind of transformation also. We want to remain as we were. I have undergone several transformations. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I have brought so many changes in my life. And these changes have actually taken me at least to the root. And that is why, in this context, I must say that whenever actually such kind of webinars are taking place, actually it delighted me that it is not only the subject matter that you have given a speaker to speak or a resource person to speak, but it is a kind of interaction, sharing of human knowledge. And also this will also inspire me and motivate me at least to focus on the things that you have highlighted before me, and you have enlightened me. I'm very thankful to everyone, those who are present here. And definitely after my retirement, which is also, I am also going to retire very soon. The next month I am going to retire. So after my retirement, it is my promise that my real life will start, because I am now compelled to be in some system, but I will be of full freedom. What one of my friends was asking me about is what is awful freedom? I will be the free bird. I'm waiting. And one of my colleagues were telling me, you are going to retire, but you are now, your face is dazzling. Your face is now very bright. Yeah. I am going to be a free bird. I will be not a caged bird. I will be a free bird. So
Sir, I thought there is a question from want to ask Professor Shashibhushan Roth is asking something. He's raising a hand. Sir, please,
Yes,
if you have any questions,
yeah,
please.
I have been listening Professor Rajendra Padhi, and his talk has been quite illuminating for me. He is a very voracious reader, as I could gather, and freely he has quoted the existential philosophers and the contemporary writers. I will ask, even the questioners, the questions were also quite, though a little bit circumlocutory, but quite interesting, I found. My simple question is, I feel that the pseudo writers are mushrooming these days. Do you believe in that? That is my first question. Yes or no? And the second question will be, if it is a thought experiment I have been doing, if all the writers, they stop writing, what will happen? That is my second question.
these are two very important questions. And I would like to say that writing is a passion. It is not a profession. For me, at least. I say that pseudo writer, you know that you better know that great writers have been also been influenced, and they have borrowed also the writings from other writers. Eliot also says that great writers, they borrow from others, they steal from others. These things happen. But the thing is that it is good that people are writing. And we have found that also many young men and women, they are writing. In one conference in Kolkata, the topic was Next Generation Initiative. There are also great speakers who were invited, Director of Aviation, then President of Sahitya Academy Gujarat, all these people were there. So everybody, they told that this next generation will be rather the least creative, and there may be the rise of the number in as writers, but their writings will not be very effective to life. This is true. Pseudo writers cannot actually survive in the world. You know that Paul Coelho, who is the writer of The Alchemist, he says that your writing is not for the present generation of the readers. Your writing is for the many generations to understand. You know that in 1950s, William Golding wrote The Lord of the Flies, but it got Nobel Prize in 1984. People could understand so many books, and somebody was asking me, I had been to Chatia College very recently in a seminar. There I told that Aurobindo's Savitri could not get Nobel Prize, but because it would take another 200 years for the civilization to understand this mystic. You cannot understand Savitri until and unless you have a spiritual vision like Aurobindo. And that great literature always survives. Good literature always survives. And pseudo writers, definitely they will be perished. Their books will be published. They may be known as a writer for a very short time of time. But this is a very short-lived writers. They cannot be immortal. So good writings, it may not be understood by the present generation, that many writers of the world, like Charles Baudelaire, like your so many writers in this world, posthumously they are famous, and Emily Dickinson also, and so many writers, their works have been highly accepted by the world even after their death. So good literature is never going to die. And pseudo writers, as you say that, I will not call them pseudo writers. Writing is a very good thing. All should write. Everyone should write. They may be a pseudo writer, or they may be bad writer or good writer. Everybody must write. If you do not write, you will lead a very stressful life. That is why I never blame any writer in my life, and I always inspire them, and also inspire the young generation that whenever you get time, just release yourself by writing few words. If you are mentally disturbed, write down a poem. If you are very happy, also write down a poem. So writing is a kind of human tendency since the day we learned this writing. So thereby, this is one. Another thing is that I forgot actually the second question. This is the problem.
If all the writers stop writing, it is a thought experiment. What will happen?
Sir. If you are a writer, you cannot stop writing. Once actually our mind has the habit of, for example, we have the habit of worshipping God. Have we ever stopped worshipping God? Just as my brother I am telling. So this is not a point of argument, but nobody can stop writing. Writers will, flowers will bloom in the garden, and it is only you are a passerby to get the fragrance and pass by the garden. So flowers will bloom. Let more flowers bloom in this world. Let there be millions and trillions and billions of writers in this world. Let people express themselves. And once the people express themselves, means this world will be rather a world, rather a free world, rather a world where actually we will not hide our emotions and feelings. Our mind will not be a fox lurking in the darkness. Rather, our mind will be a garden of flowers. And that is why this is my point, that writers, those who are writing, they are in the habit of writing, they cannot stop it. So this is an eternal process that man has been expressing himself in several ways, and in art, in painting, in music, in dance, in song, in literature. So this will continue, sir. So if all the writers will stop writing, the world will stop definitely, because people will fail to express, and we we will never find. We cannot check anybody to write. Rather, we have to motivate them to write something about their own culture, about their own, in their own language, about the feelings of nativity, about the feelings of their own tradition, culture, family. Let them write about their own mother, own brother, own sister, about their relatives, so that they can have feelings. Once you write about your mother, you can have feelings. I have written so many poems on mother. I love my mother so much. Everyone loves their mother so much. In one poem, that was published from Delhi. So in that poem, I say that, oh, my mother was dead, and just it was some 14 or 15 days. I was sitting in our house at the backyard under a tree which I had planted long back. So there actually I wrote, oh mother, you are dead now. And after some years, when I will grow, when I will become old, in the meanwhile, you will take baths. And when I will die, at that time you will be a young woman. So again I will be your son. That was the poem. Oh mother, today you are dead, and tomorrow you will be born, and you will grow into a young woman, and you will marry someone when I will die as an old man. And at that time, again I will be your son. That was my poem. That was published from Delhi. So, oh mother.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice hearing from you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Professor
Thank you,
Padhi.
sir.
Thank you so much, Professor Sasiru Chandraratha, for questions. Now, after 1.5 hour of wonderful session by Professor Rajendra Padhi, now I would like to conclude the session with a vote of thanks. So thank you so much, Professor Padhi, for joining with us in a very holistic approach. You are sharing about ideas, human values. You are talking about philosophies, and definitely you are talking about some challenges of the 21st century world, how literature is missing the romanticism, how literature is missing the 21st century's modern activism and modern postmodern thoughts. Definitely, it is a very explicit talk, and we people are very much happy to listen and presenting you as a global thinker in our platform. We are very thankful to you that you are joining us. It's definitely an honor for us, a person like you is joining us. I would like to thank our patrons, Professor Mahadev Joysu, Professor Sanjay Naik, Professor Dr. Sarath Kumar Palita, Dr. Bikram Jena for their coordination. Because of these patrons, we are very much interested to organize these sessions, these webinars. I would like to thank our entire team, Shubham Das, Dr. Nupur Patnaik, Dr. Samuel Lima, Dr. Shravan Bag, Dr. Neha Sharma, Dr. Kamal Prasad Mohanty, Dr. Professor N.S. Srinivasulu, and Professor Dr. B.C. Das, and all our team members for their support and guidance. And I would like to thank all of our audiences who are listening us in social media, live Facebook and YouTube, and who are here, 20 to 30 people, our core team, to join us and listen our speakers in a very relentlessly. Thank you so much, all our participants. And now the session will be closed. The meeting will be concluded. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Padhi, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night.